Thank you all for being on time. Sorry that we're 5 minutes behind, so we're good because this goes into lunch, so you don't need to eat or anything. My name is Tim Mazer. I'm the Uber judge in today's session. It means that I'm not a real judge who will contribute to your score, but I'm kind of a moderator and will accomplish some other goals. And so we're going to begin in a couple of minutes with me inviting the judges to introduce themselves. And then I'm going to read a script. And then the script will, the first words that come from you is you will tell us who the four of you are in character. And then you'll tell us what our characters are. Then I'll press the timer and the timing will begin. And so after we finish with introducing ourselves, you know, if you have any questions out of character, let me know. And then after I read the script, we'll get started. So just to start, let's see, Tim Mazer. I've worked in ethics and compliance in corporations for 36 years. I've taught business ethics at 8 MBA programs across the United States over the past 34 years. I work in business ethics at the Broad Institute of MIT and Harvard here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And that's it for me. Maria.
Hi, everyone. I am not a regular judge or an Uber judge. I am an AI judge. Not that I am AI myself. Yeah, that's real. Real. You cut me, I bleed, I promise. No, I am judging I'm sitting in most of the AI related sessions because this year we're doing a special competition with prize for the AI track, which you all are part of because I see AI.
That's right.
Who am I besides an AI judge? I am in the ethics and business conduct function at BAE Systems, which is a very large multinational aerospace and defense company. And so I sit up in New Hampshire, and I'm very happy to be here with you all.
Greg?
Yeah, Greg Mayer. I'm a patent attorney by training, and I work in a corporation called Becton Dickinson. I'm mainly in Tempe, Arizona these days, but I'm really from Chicago area. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. I think this is my 3rd or 4th year judging. I started during the pandemic. This is my first live experience judging in this event. So,
Very cool.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Melissa?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Melissa Loretti. I'm an in-house counsel for an insurance company, and I'm also a compliance professor at UConn Law School.
And Allison?
I'm Alison Taunton-Rigby. My background is, I have a scientific background originally, but I've worked in the biotech industry. So I'm a healthcare person, plus a sort of business executive. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so a couple of things to remember. All the judges have read the executive summary. For Allison and Melissa, if you want to look into their eyes when you're answering their questions or something like that, that's the camera right there. And this whole thing is being recorded. So just for you to know that. So I'm going to begin to read my script, and then we'll start the clock after you guys let us know who you are and who we are. In this part of the competition, you are taking on a fictional business identity and assigning a fictional business identity to the judges. Please make sure everyone knows who you are and who we are before you begin. You will have up to a total of 30 minutes. It's okay if you use 20 or 24 or 28, but don't go past 30 minutes to describe the legal, financial, and ethical dimensions of the problem and to recommend a solution that passes muster on all 3 counts. You are responsible for knowing when 30 minutes is. We don't tell you that. During this time, teams will be uninterrupted. When you are finished with your presentation, I will begin a 20-minute period while we all will continue to remain in character. You will answer questions from the judges for 20 minutes. After the Q&A, the judges will then, we all will step out of character. You'll be allowed to breathe, and you will spend the last 10 minutes getting feedback from the judges outside of the role play. Some important things to keep in mind: the ethical aspects of your analysis are the most important part. However, these should be described in a simple, practical, common sense fashion. Using technical, philosophical terminology or basing your argument on religious or theological grounds will be considered a serious weakness. During the presentation, every member of your team must have some sort of a speaking role. So, who are you?
I'm Will Marson. I'm Muthu Meenakshi Sundaram. I'm Roy Hamlachek. And I'm Jason Weber. And we're all consultants with Morris Consulting Group. Keeper AI has brought us in to do an analysis of your business ahead of your impending scaling up to serve a wider customer base. And so you all are the board of directors of Keeper.
Okay, and thank you, and the clock has started.
So I'll give you all a brief introduction to our presentation, then pass it off to Roy to dive into some of the meat. From ancient Mesopotamia to Mughal India, from Shakespearean England to Taylor Swift's America, the perennial problem of human life has been finding someone to spend it with. Now, humans across history have tried all sorts of tools to help facilitate romantic partnership. For example, my own parents got an arranged marriage. The practice of arranged marriage favors marital longevity over individual freedom. Other tools like modern dating apps, for example, prioritize that individual freedom over the relationship's longevity. At Keeper, you offer a matchmaking product powered by artificial intelligence and mating psychology that sacrifices neither the individual's freedom nor the relationship's success. From day one, your mission at Keeper has been to serve everyone, to end human loneliness by giving everyone the opportunity to start a family, to build the product that introduces everyone to their soulmate on the first match. But right now, the high price of your premium service puts it out of reach for most people. As you all know, that's going to change in the next year, because you're going to transition your product to a full AI product and lower your price to scale up and serve a much wider group of people. And that's why you brought us in today. You see, right now, Keeper has a small, socially conservative, wealthy customer base. Once scaled, you're going to have a large, ideologically and socioeconomically diverse customer base. So the core challenge for you then is, how do you serve the needs of this new customer base in an ethical way while maintaining the core of who you are as a company, your values and your mission? And that's what our analysis is going to focus around. So we're going to identify some ethical weaknesses in your business. These are real flaws that we think are highlighted by scaling up. And we're going to recommend specific changes to your product and business model that aim to better align you with your own values and help you serve this new group of people. But in addition to that, we're going to talk about some ethical strengths. These are controversial parts of your business that we nevertheless think are reasonable aspects of who you are. So what we're going to do is we're going to recommend new public relations strategies to help you sharpen your message and better communicate these parts of who you are. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Roy to dive into some of the ethical weaknesses we've identified.
Thank you, Muthu. As Muthu said, I will be covering some ethical weaknesses we think Keeper might encounter as it makes its move to scale up and serve a wider demographic. The first ethical weakness we have identified is in your pricing model. So right now, Keeper uses two different methods for extracting payment from its users. The first is this paper date method. And in this one, the match's contact information is locked until the user pays. And then the user pays this fee, the match's contact information is released, and then they go on the date. and if it goes well, that's great. The other one is the marriage bounty. And in this one, users only pay once one of these 5 criteria have been met. Because the criteria because the user is in contact with the match before they have to pay anything, there's really nothing stopping them from simply saying that the relationship didn't work out in order to avoid paying you. So right now, you have been using certain methods to enforce the marriage bounty and to ensure that the number of non-paying customers remains relatively few. So first, you're using the honor system. And this has been working so far because, as Muthu said, you have been serving this small socially conservative demographic whose sense of honor sort of aligns with yours. When you scale up and your demographic is everybody, though, people have different senses of honor. And so some people's senses of honor are going to permit them to lie to you and avoid payment. The other sort of incentive you've been using is this concern with personal image. Your philosophy is that people won't want to found a relationship based on a lie, based on this like financial scam sort of thing. However, your pool of potential matches is going to get a lot bigger in the next year. And so lots of those people might have this like sort of like stick it to the man sort of mentality, which makes people who avoid paying keeper more attractive. And so this personal image concern is going to sort of be diminished. Another thing, you use public records to monitor clients so far, but in the United States, at least, lots of states have things like adoption, marriage, and birth records sealed, and you can't access them. So for your larger demographic, the sort of public records monitoring strategy is also going to lose its vitality. The last thing that you use is like social media monitoring, and not everyone wants social media, not everyone has social media because they don't want their personal lives on display for the world to see. And so you're simply not going to be able to monitor everyone's social media because they're not going to have it. You'd have to either make them use social media or just sort of reduce your monitoring. And so because all of these things sort of lose their vitality when you make this transition to the mass market, we see the marriage bounty as less viable. So you're at a crossroads right now. You have 3 options. The first one is to collect more personal information and find sort of like more creative ways of monitoring clients. But we don't recommend this because it gets intrusive and it exposes you to legal and ethical concerns regarding privacy. So we don't recommend that. The other option would be to reduce the amount to which you monitor your clients, and that like welcomes in these people that like don't have social media, don't use social media, stuff like that. But it allows for this easy option of simply lying about the relationship, saying it didn't work out when it actually did, and it allows people to get away with not paying you. The option that we recommend is to remove the marriage bounty and focus solely on pay per date. The marriage bounty is simply too cumbersome to ensure everyone pays when you have this larger demographic. In our interviews with your CEO, Jake Kozlowski, he told us that the pay per date method is the one that's more successful anyway, and more people are using the pay per date method. So we recommend focusing on simply the pay per date method going forward. Our second ethical weakness that we have identified is in your matching algorithm. So right now, you use these 2 different methods of matching customers. First is the preference trait matching, and for an example of this, say someone wants a 6'2" man, so the algorithm knows this, and the algorithm goes through the match pool and finds a match that is a 6'2" man, matches them to the user. The other one is trait matching. And then this one, say you have a customer who is about 100 IQ. And then the algorithm knows that people of similar IQ get along together. And so it matches someone with similar IQ level. Right now, you guys emphasize preference trait matching. However, we have concerns that when you have this larger expanded demographic, the preference trait matching method won't be able to serve everyone as well. So take Jack and Jill, for example, here. Jill is female, older, and higher in openness. So the pool of people that fall into her preferences covers a wider section of these people that Jill is compatible with. The people that she actually prefers when it comes down to it. The demographics she falls into simply have, on average, experience on average this phenomenon. However, Jack is male, he's younger, and he's lower in openness. And so the people that Jack prefers covers a much wider range than the people who Jack is actually compatible with, as you can see here, the other greens. When the preference trait algorithm is going through and analyzing Jack's preferences, it's going to pair him with any of these people. And the odds of him getting this green person are pretty small. And so the preference trait algorithm doesn't serve Jack as well as it does Jill. We see this disparity in product quality as a concern because, as a general principle, users should enjoy the same sort of product quality regardless of their demographic. This is obviously an ethical concern. It is also misaligned with Keeper's mission to find everyone their soulmate. And also for a practical financial concern, the customer satisfaction will go down if people see that they are receiving a smaller number of quality matches than other people. Our recommendation is to make your algorithm rely more on trait matching over preference trait matching, because preference trait matching is going to have different levels of precision based on the demographic it's trying to match. And so to serve these people who are like, for example, low in openness, you need a trait matching algorithm to sort of close that gap between the people they're compatible with and the people they prefer. So going forward, we recommend making your matching algorithm rely more on trait matching. With that, I will pass it off to Will for another week.
Thank you, Roy. Yeah, so our final ethical weakness that we've identified in the product is a lack of inclusivity. Now, to explore this ethical weakness, we're going to look at the product through the eyes of someone who might not feel included by it. So, meet Avery. Avery is a non-binary, bisexual software engineer in her late 20s. We're going to use pronouns she, they for this presentation. Now, Avery's had fun in her 20s with hookups, casual dating, what have you. But finally, she's looking to settle down, marry, perhaps even have kids. Now, she's tried other dating apps, do your Tinder, Bumble, what have you. They have not been serviceable to this end. Her friend Raj, however, has told her about this high precision, AI-driven dating service called Keeper, which he met his wife on. So Avery decides to give it a Google. Now, she scrolls to the website and sees this compendium of articles, original articles on Keeper, and notices titles that have this odd focus on a very binary sense of gender. So, for example, why women are struggling to find love on dating apps, how to take good dating app photos as a man. She scrolls past this and sees a number of photos of ostensibly hetero couples. Now, this all makes Avery a little bit uncomfortable, but yeah, she is tantalized by your vision to find her soulmate on the first match. I mean, who could pass that up? So she clicks the Get Matched button to begin the onboarding process. Immediately, she's presented with these options. Women start here, men start here. Now, if you remember, Avery's non-binary, obviously not pleased with these options. But let's imagine she's feminine presenting, so they go with the women option, hoping they can specify, more about their gender or sexuality later on. They're taken to this preferences and traits form. This is sort of a get to know you form that Keeper uses to match people with. And she gets many questions about, her height, her SAT scores, how many children she wants. But this is the only slide where she could feasibly put anything about her gender or sexuality. And it's kind of a throwaway question. Anything else we should know about you? It doesn't seem like the place to put more about that after all this sort of heteronormative signaling. So, again, not pleased. She's also confused about something. When her friend Raj told her about this service, he said that they asked him about career and financial stability, but she hasn't got these questions on the women's form. She realizes that it's because they don't ask women about career and financial stability on the women's form. Scenes from the TV show Mad Men flash through her mind. She's not pleased with this. Now, we talked with your CEO, Jake Kozlowski, and we learned that this decision was based on evolutionary psychology research, which suggests that women care more about men's careers than vice versa, and men tend not to care about women's careers. And, sure, this may have been true on like the Serengeti. It may be, may describe a trend in very traditional cultures, but, we're living in 2024. This does not hold as a universal, even remotely. So yeah, we recommend getting rid of this feature and, asking women about their careers, especially, very successful career-driven women, probably like yourselves. So yeah, it should be clear at this point that Keeper is not currently an inclusive product. But look at your mission statement. End human loneliness by giving everyone the opportunity to start a happy, healthy family. We believe that if you examine this mission statement closely, it implies inclusion. So let's break it down. The first part is end human loneliness. Keeper wants to end human loneliness. Well, LGBT plus people are experience nearly double the rates of loneliness as non-LGBT plus people. They would be perfect for this product by this metric. The next part, everyone. Keeper wants to serve everyone. This is the obvious point. LGBT plus people make up over 20% of the population in Gen Z, and that number has been doubling every year, every generation since boomers. This is only expected to grow. So Keeper should serve this demographic not only for mission reasons, but just obvious financial reasons. This is a large percent of the population that they could serve. The final part is family. Keeper wants people to have families. Now, there is this stereotype that LGBT plus people aren't interested in families. They're just interested in whatever, hooking up, having fun, whatever the stereotype is. But the data suggests otherwise. 63% of LGBT plus millennials in 2019, when the survey was conducted, were interested in expanding their families by having children. For the first time, we're expanding their families more than they already were. So Keeper is not currently an inclusive product. It should be it is their mission to be. So we have 4 recommendations to make it more inclusive. First, include photos of visibly LGBT plus couples on the website. Second, write articles about LGBT plus romance, in addition to the ones you have on sort of more binary gender-related issues. Third, create one ungendered sign-up button. None of this men start here, women start here business. That's got to go. And fourth, add sections in the traits and preference form for gender identity, sexual orientation, and obviously career and financial stability for all users. So this concludes our analysis of the ethical weaknesses of Keeper's product, but we still believe in the core of who you as Keeper are. And I'm going to hand it off to Jason now to defend and refine that core with some ethical strengths.
Thanks, Will. So what I do for the Morris Consulting Group is I take our client and I look for strengths. And you've indicated a want to scale, which makes me really excited because it means you want to go big, you're not going home and settling into some technological niche. Now, those 3 strengths that I have identified are your self-improvement strategy, promotion of marriage, and promotion of child rearing. Starting with self-improvement, I want you to imagine that you are going to have clients who are overweight, hygienically impaired, or maybe socially awkward. And you don't know whether or not they're coming to your website with a dose of relationship trauma. When they get to your website, they're gonna see the blog post and check it out. You see this blog post is at the top every time someone goes to Keeper. How to be ugly, lonely, and eventually divorced. Now, while this may be humorous to internet trolls on X, formerly known as Twitter, it goes against and conflicts with two of your main values. Those being value 4, honesty is always best, and value 7, the individual matters. So, granted, that article was written at a time when Keeper needed to distinguish itself among the modern dating apps, but it can be criticized as being complicit in body shaming and violates clients' autonomy. But self-improvement in itself is not a bad thing. We all can be better every day. I try to be better, a better consultant, but there are some changes that we can make. Change the tone of your advice from being inauthentic, sarcastic, and perhaps childish to inspirational and aspirational. You want to inspire your clients to be better than they are. Next, go on a long-form media PR tour to communicate the message that at Keeper, your values matter. That value 7, the individual matters. You at Keeper, you would say, we here at Keeper, we recognize that you are a unique and complex individual like any of our clients, and you deserve to not be lonely and to have a fulfilling and satisfied relationship. Next, post testimonials from successful clients, from people who maybe needed some self-improvement, they followed the self-improvement, and through Keeper, they got matched. I think it would be a wonderful addition, instead of a blog post full of sarcastic articles, to have a page that inspires you to be like, you know what, I can find a match. Moving on to the promotion of marriage. So Keeper, as Will mentioned, operates off a evolutionary psychology outlook on marriage, which states men are biologically promiscuous and women naturally want to have and raise children. Thus, marriage is a cultural response to an evolutionary need to civilize men, am I right, ladies, or to give women the stability and protection they need to successfully raise their kids. However, marriage is beneficial for all types of people. It has been shown over decades, according to the General Social Survey, that men and women, as well as LGBT plus identifying folks, are happier and more satisfied when married. And this is also is shown when you add kids to the mix. Happiness goes up about 5% across sexes when children come after marriage. So what I would recommend is to still promote marriage, but promote marriage for everybody. Because while evolutionary psychology may indicate general trends or truths among the population, it's not a one-size-fits-all analysis for marriage. So lastly, with your promotion of child rearing, first, some criticisms. Environmental strain. It has long been argued that having kids, increasing the population, strains the environment. And so that's one criticism. The next criticism is a resource strain. It takes a lot of money and a lot of resources to successfully raise a kid. You may have heard that it may even take a village to raise a kid, and enough people are going to believe that they are going to come with criticism of your company for directly promoting child rearing. Next, general parental inexperience. Parents, after all, are kids having kids, and there may be a criticism that an AI, while it may understand how to match people together to have a successful marriage, it may not necessarily pick two people who are going to be successful at parenting. However, you at Keeper, while you are concerned with the loneliness crisis, you are also concerned with the birth rate crisis. And this is shown by this graphic, where everywhere except parts of the Middle East and parts of the Pacific, but mostly in Africa, that's where the birth rate crisis isn't happening. It's everywhere else in this blue where the birth rate crisis is happening. Replacement level to maintain a population and not grow it is 2.1 births per birthing person. So in America, it is 1.6. And this is the crisis that you at Keeper have undertaken. So as you can see, according to this graphic, it is projected that the American population is going to narrow. And this is a crisis because Western societies are built on structures that assume people are going to have enough kids to keep those structures functional, such as economic welfare systems. We need new inputs, children, to take care of the old inputs, grandparents, because without those new inputs, old age care goes down. I don't know how many times my parents are out working and my grandparents needed someone to take them to the hospital or make sure that they were able to be driven to the pharmacy, and I was available to do that as a teenager. So that's one defense. So recommendations. Communicate why solving the birth rate crisis is important. You don't just want to say, have as many kids as possible, or, go beyond your limit. If you can have one kid, have one kid. But communicate why solving the birth rate crisis is important. Post testimonials from clients who started families, because this is supposed to be a long-term marriage and family planning matchmaker. So I definitely would be interested, as opposed to Tinder or Bumble or what have you, if there was a whole page of dozens of people who have successfully matched through Keeper and have started families. Also, partner with adoption organizations and IVF companies, as you have previously done, but clarify your commitment to solving the birth rate crisis. Take it away, Mutu.
Thanks, Jason. So you offer a product that respects individual freedom without sacrificing the success of the relationship. That's what sets Keeper apart from every other tool that our species has come up with to engage in romantic partnership. But Keeper isn't just satisfied with matching individuals. You have broader visions. You want to use matchmaking as a means to promote procreation and fight loneliness. So these three things then together make up the soul of Keeper: fighting loneliness, promoting procreation, and respecting individual freedom without sacrificing the relationship. As you saw in our analysis, we identified ethical successes, ethical strengths, and ethical weaknesses. Your ethical strengths you can think of as parts of your business where you stay true to the soul of Keeper, but can still align yourselves better with general ethical principles. For example, we saw that you advise clients to improve themselves to increase their odds of getting a match. This is in line with the soul of Keeper, right? You want to respect individuals' preferences, get them a match, get them married, but you do this in a condescending way. So we recommend that you change your tone and make it more aspirational, gather testimonials and uplift people, and that will bring you more in line with general ethical principles. On the other hand, we've got your ethical weaknesses. These are parts of your business where you're in line neither with the soul of Keeper nor with general ethical principles. For example, we discussed your matching algorithm and its reliance on preference trait matching. That's working out fine for you now. When you scale up and get a variety of demographics, it's going to create a disparity. It's going to work better for some demographics, worse for others, and that's going to create a difference in the quality of your service for different groups of people. That disparity isn't consistent with your values and it isn't consistent with general ethical principles. So we recommended that you rely more on trait management. We began our whole analysis with the perennial problem of human life, finding someone to spend it with. In just 2 years, you've built a strong, mission-driven company that's already made strides towards solving this problem. But if you want to take the product that's worked for thousands and make it work for millions, you're going to need to shed your ethical weaknesses and sharpen your messaging about your ethical strengths. Once you do that, there's no stopping Keeper, and you're going to solve this perennial problem for our time and for all time to come. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you, gentlemen. So we have now 20 minutes where we're going to ask you questions, and I'm going to begin. The question right off the top of my head is lots of very valuable information, but I still want to ask this. What makes these issues that you've presented ethical issues?
So we've got sort of a two-pronged approach to ethics, right? When you're thinking about business ethics, you want to think about, is a company and their actions, are those in line with their stated values, their stated mission, right? So internal consistency is one prong of ethics. The other prong is sort of alignment with general ethical principles, fairness, integrity, honesty, principles like that. So these two prongs are sort of what govern any issue that we tackle in our analysis. And a lot of these issues, when you scale up your company, they're going to become ethical issues that attack both prongs. Once you scale up and get a variety of demographics, any part of your business that we identify is going to become inconsistent with your own values, and it's going to violate some general ethical principles. So that's sort of generally how this is an ethical analysis.
And just to add specifically, like Mutu was covering in our conclusion, the actual ethical issues that we're applying to this framework are what Roy mentioned, the pricing model, the matching algorithm, and then what I mentioned, the lack of inclusivity, and then Jason's specific issues of self-improvement, marriage, child rearing.
Okay, excellent. Allison, why don't you start us off?
Thank you very much indeed for your presentation. I enjoyed listening to you, and your analysis of our company is really good. It's actually helped me understand the business of this company. Being on the board of directors is a little challenging in that you get some information, but not the sort of complete oversight that you gave us. However, I am concerned about the financial ramifications of what you're suggesting. I mean, a very large percentage of our revenues comes from the marriage bounty. Yes, we don't always quite get it. I mean, it is a challenge to collect it. But on the other hand, I can't imagine what we would have to increase the paper date fees to in fact recover that loss of funding if we abandon the marriage bounty. So please, can you give me some information about what the financial ramifications might be and how we handle that?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. That's a great point. We delved into this in our analysis as well. So currently, the final price of the marriage bounty is $50,000 US. And while a user is in the process of going through that marriage bounty, they're paying a monthly fee to a matchmaker just to cover the costs of them working for that user. And then the cost of the paper date model for each date is anywhere from $100 to $200. Keeper, you guys aim to reduce these prices eventually. But the reason that we think that eliminating the marriage bounty is not going to pose a serious financial issue is because you haven't had too many successful marriage bounty matches. In fact, right now, Keeper has about 300 to 400 paid users. Half of these are on the paper date plan, and half of them are on the marriage bounty plan. You've matched and married many, many people through paper date, but you've only matched one person and married one person through marriage bounty. So you only had one $50,000 payment, but you've had all these payments of $100 to $200. So it seems like this consistent source of revenue is attractive for Keeper and has helped sort of buoy your company so far. And we think that because pay per date is a lower price and because it's attractive to a lot of people once you scale up, the breadth of customers and the increase in number of customers is going to make up for the actual reduction in price that comes from eliminating the marriage bounty and focus on pay per date. So because of the lack of success of the marriage bounty right now, and in addition, because of the population increase that offsets the price decrease, we think that pay per date isn't gonna, doing only pay per date isn't actually going to present any serious financial issues for you.
Roy, did you want to add to that since this is your focus, or if not, I can? Okay. Yeah, and also as Roy was mentioning in his analysis, the marriage bounty when scaled to a wide audience is going to present a number of legal PR issues that are going to end up making it less profitable. So right now you might think, yeah, easy. We just, these users get married, they tell us, they pay us $50,000, what could go wrong? When you scale up to, millions of users, I mean, what are you going to be doing? Like hiding in the bushes with binoculars, like tracking down your clients? It's just infeasible, and it's going to result in lawsuits and a number of issues. So that's another reason why marriage bounty is not a good idea going forward.
So I have a follow-up question. Would you recommend we change our pricing on the pay per date? I mean, it seems to me that we're going to have to find enormous numbers of users and have them go on lots and lots of dates, because even if we only got 150,000, that's a huge sum of money compared with how many dates we're going to have to be equivalent. So give me some guidance on what you think we should do for pricing.
That's a good point. So I think we'd point out that you guys currently have 80,000 users, but a week ago you had 16,000 users. So Keeper is at sort of the upward point of their growth curve right now, and you're going to keep going up. So we don't foresee that you're going to have issues finding the amount of people required to offset that price decrease. And with regards to the reduction in price for the pay per date model, you already have some plans to reduce the price of the pay per date model once you scale up to full AI. We haven't delved much in that information because it wasn't in the scope of our analysis, but we know that you're going to have to eliminate some laborers, human matchmakers, and also add some more servers to increase your AI, and that's going to change the cost dynamic. So that determination is something that you're going to have to make internally, but we're confident that a modest price decrease would still increase revenue given just the rate of Keeper's growth.
Greg?
So I have a question that I don't mean to offend anyone, but we do have customers, I'm sure, that have very traditional values when it comes to gender identity and sexuality. And aren't we going to offend them potentially if we have this gender neutral, what some people would call woke kind of intro to the customers? What have you thought about that? Would it drive customers away that are more maybe traditional, evangelical Christians or whatever religion might be more of just set in their ways, so to speak? And I don't mean to offend anyone, I'm just speaking that there are customers I would bet out there that would have that sort of blowback. So what do you have?
It's a savvy financial concern. Yeah, we thought about this, and we believe that with the one gender neutral button and the sort of LGBT plus friendly signaling, that would first of all gain you many liberal and LGBT plus users who are looking to see that. So that would offset any any number of conservative Christians or whoever would be very repelled by the new changes. But additionally, Keeper sets itself apart from the other dating apps by these very these things that are attractive to conservative people, like focus on marriage and birth rate. And so it's not like they have anywhere else to go for a product that focuses on these things. And so they might see some LGBT plus signaling, which would probably be good for them to sort of digest and think about why they have negative reactions to. but in the end, most of them are gonna stay because they're attracted to Keeper's core.
Well, as a board member, I think we would have a duty to do some market testing before we rolled anything out like that, and
Absolutely,
that would be part of
I think we would support that. In addition, we'd also mention that the core of that change is the change in how users begin the process, right? Going from 2 buttons for men and women to 1 button. But that's a change from positive traditional signaling to neutral signaling, but not to positive liberal signaling, right? We're not saying men, women, gender neutral start here. So we think that that is it's more of a modest step that's going to turn away fewer of those users.
Thank you.
Have we got Hannah? No, Melissa. Melissa.
Yes. Oh, yes, thank you. This was a really helpful presentation. So I have a few questions on the data that you're going to use to train the model. So I know your recommendation is to move to trait matching, but it sounds like we've got some gaps in our data just in terms of how we've been inclusive or not so inclusive so far. So how does that play into your recommendation? And do you think we should go out and get third-party data? And what are those risks related to that we need to be aware of?
I mean, yeah, for sure. That's one of the things that I found when doing my research is that this sort of lower socioeconomic status people are like less likely to participate in like surveys and stuff in order to provide sort of information on dating statistics and whatnot. So I think definitely part of our recommendation is that to serve this new and massive population, Keeper does probably need to go out and try to harvest some information for these people in these other socioeconomic statuses, just because not only does Keeper not really have data on them, but this is kind of a problem for everyone right now, is that we just don't really have that kind of data.
We'll also note that your current algorithm for men and women, in the case of matching men and women, is trained to use, it's sort of designed around evolutionary psychology studies. So for example, you have this assumption baked into the algorithm that women on many traits want to match across and up. So for example, if you have a woman who has 100 IQ, wants to match people who have 100 or above IQ. This is an assumption that Keeper derived from a lot of studies of evolutionary psychology and then baked into your algorithm. So we think that you can do similar things with people of other demographics, like LGBTQ plus people. You can find studies about these people's mating and relationship behavior, and then bake in those same algorithm assumptions into your algorithm without having to go through too much extra cost of harvesting data.
And I guess I'll add, not to get too deep into the sort of AI weeds, but currently the way your matching algorithm works is it takes the preferences of the user and it tries to match those, relying on preference trait matching, which we'd like to shift. When there are holes in those preferences, so if a user doesn't specify, what height of a man they want or something, it will fill in those that matching criteria with evolutionary psychology based reasoning. So it'd be like, well, if this woman did not provide how tall the man she wants, she probably wants the height of a partner, which from a heteronormative evolutionary psychology is predicted. And so one possible suggestion with making the algorithm more inclusive, because obviously LGBT plus people don't fall into those same heteronormative assumptions, is to have an algorithm that people can opt in, that straight people can opt into, that we'll try to match them based on those principles, but then also that LGBT plus people can opt out of, so then it just relies on preference matching. And then hopefully we can do these further studies to find deeper patterns so that when there's holes in those preferences, we can still make intelligent matches kind of under the surface, the same that we currently do with straight people.
Maria?
Yeah, I guess my question is, the focus on the child rearing, I think you had quite a few criticisms of that. And, I'm a little confused why the recommendation isn't just to get rid of that. And maybe have some testimonials that include, oh, we met on Keeper and look at our beautiful baby, great, now you're showing that there's, child rearing can happen as a result of Keeper, but why this focus on, kind of communicating why the birth rate is important? I'm just curious why that's part of your recommendation.
Well, that was recommendations based on your missions as a company. Keeper through multiple interviews with CEO and founder J.P. Wisłocki has indicated, or not indicated, made it clear that it's not just the loneliness crisis that Keeper is concerned about, but it is the birth rate crisis. If you wanted to ditch that, that would be an internal process, but it would be, shifting the purpose of what Keeper was initially designed for, which was not to just marry people, but to marry people and then have those people have kids. And you might think, well, married people have kids, and it's I wouldn't jump to those conclusions. So that's why I made the recommendations I did based off of Keeper's own goals as a company. And the promoting procreation and child rearing, when we discussed that was part of our ethical strength section. So these are parts of Keeper that are in line with your own values, but we anticipate when you scale, you're going to encounter criticisms. So when we talked about those criticisms, we anticipate that you'll see those and you'll hear those. And we think, all right, make these recommendations, these changes to better respond to the criticisms you're going to face. But we didn't feel there was our place in this analysis to sort of recommend you to ditch that commitment. We think it works with the other parts of your mission, and we just wanted to recommend ways to keep you moving.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to Greg's point, my fellow board member over here, I mean, we're kind of a niche dating site, like JDate, right? Like we're kind of niche, right? And isn't there one for farmers out there? Right? You want a farmer or something? Yeah. So why don't we just stay like super niche and just focus on people that want to have babies, whether they want to be whatever their sexual orientation is, right? That I understand the point about the sexual orientation, and I think you addressed his concerns well about turning off certain groups of people. Why not just focus on that?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. When we discussed this with your CEO, we asked a similar question. He mentioned that this is an issue that's been come before the board a few times, as well as the executive suite, because when you went out to some venture capital funds for your initial funding, a lot of them gave you the same advice, right? Hey, stick to your niche demographic. They're wealthy, keep the price high. You got good business. But your executive suite and your founders remain committed to this mission of providing great matches, a soulmate for everybody on the first match. I mean, that's their core. That's the core part of their drive and their mission.
If that person wants a baby.
In our conversations with your founders, it's definitely not restricted to procreation. So if a client were to get matched with Keeper and they said they didn't want to have a baby, or they filled out their preferences form and didn't want to have kids, Keeper would still take them, would still match them because of that loneliness aspect, right? You'd rather fill one half of your mission than 0 parts of your mission.
Okay, that makes sense.
To add to that, I would also caution against becoming comfortable in a niche. I think Jason used the same phrase. Like Walmart has chased many small, niche mom and pop businesses out of many towns because they can utilize
markets of scale, what's the economies of scale, to deliver a cheaper and even sometimes better product than these small niche businesses can. And this is especially true in the tech and AI industry. I mean, you're gonna have these giants which just develop a better, more precise matching algorithm that's gonna deliver these high class, these people who can pay big money, they're gonna want the best quality product. And if you hang out in this niche with your product that is currently superior to the others in terms of matching precision, you're gonna get chased out by these companies like maybe Tinder or Match Group is I think the Chinese company that owns like most of these things and has economies of scale to devote to highly precise algorithms in the next 10 years. You're gonna be chased out. They're gonna make a better product for cheaper if you don't first capture a mass market, which you're looking to do right now.
Good question. Okay, so we have only 45 seconds. Can you name 1 or 2 or 3 laws or regulations that we must consider and know about as we decide whether or not to implement your recommendations?
Yeah, I would recommend Civil Rights Act of 64, 65. That's definitely something you should consider when doing multiple demographics. You should also consider local state laws around privacy, because of the enforcement of certain methods of payment, you're gonna be operating in multiple states with multiple demographics. And additionally, I would also recommend the Americans with Disabilities Act. A lot of businesses that operate online first are gonna need to be conscious of how they design their website to make sure that it's as open and as welcoming to as many people as possible.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, you have survived. You're all set. That's excellent. So take a breath and let's take advantage of this prestigious group of judges to give you some feedback as who we are as opposed to our characters. So because we have 5 minutes, we're sort of limited to 2 minutes a person. But for the first time all day, there isn't someone banging down the door to come in. So feel free to go over by a couple of seconds if you would like. Why don't we start with Allison?
So now that I can say things honestly, I think most of the issues you raised are business issues. They didn't seem to me to be ethical issues, they're business ones. And that sort of worried me a little bit, because you can obviously design a dating site for matching certain things and not others. You can't be one thing works everywhere. So I was a little worried about that, because I just didn't really see the true sort of ethical issues there. I was concerned with a couple of your premises. I have to say that as a woman, biologically wanting to raise kids, I think you need to have a woman on your team to think through some of those things, because that to me was not a good thing to hear about. I would not want to use Keeper because I don't think that biologically raising kids is the only reason that I'm in this world. And then I also just want to quickly pick up on you talk a lot about the birth rate problem. I actually have the opposite view from you. It's a business model again for the country, the economics. We have to change how the economics of our whole world runs, because the world cannot continue to grow. We already overpopulate this earth. So it's not that we've got to have more kids to solve that elderly problem. It's we've got to change the business models. So I just want to point out there's a different perspective on, a couple of the issues that you touched on.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Allison. Next with Greg.
All right, well, I'm gonna just focus on sort of your delivery and style. I'll just give you feedback on that, because that's something I struggle with personally, just speaking in front of audiences. Mutu, I thought you did really well. Your presence, your delivery, your eye contact, your hand gestures were very appropriate, and your slides were cool too. I thought you had really engaging slides. I don't know if you each worked on your own slides, but those were great slides, I thought. Roy, you looked at the screen a little too much. You did overall a good job, but I just did it myself. You said a lot. There were some stall words in your delivery. That's just something that you need to practice and get better at. And I think you did a great job in the Q&A. Really good eye contact in the Q&A session. Will, I think you had a good topic, good delivery. I'm not sure. I guess I wasn't sure that all the topics you talked about were really about ethics, but I did think the sort of diversity inclusions type of thing, I see that as an ethical issue. So I think there was an ethics angle there. Jason, good job. The slide you had that had animation with the red and blue, it was cool. And I was like, at first it was really cool. And then I was like, I don't really understand what's going on there. So I think when you have a sort of really complicated slide visual, you should spend a little time showing what's happening. And I think it was cycling through and repeating.
Yeah.
But it was a little distracting, honestly. But I think if you had really focused on here's what this is showing, it would have been better. But it was kind of really cool. Also, there's animation in the slide. So, and I'm probably way over 2 minutes, so I'll stop now.
I think you all did a wonderful job. I am so curious, and he's not gonna give me time to let you answer, but I am so curious why you chose this particular topic with this particular dating site. I mean, I want to go and look up more about this keeper company, because there's a part of me that like kind of that spidey sense that's like, oh, these are like evangelical Christians behind it. And then to Greg's point, like they're not. I don't know, somehow I just find that, okay, my spidey sense is off. Anywho, I think you all did a wonderful job presenting. You did a great job staying in character. I think you had a really really tied everything back to the core values of the company, which I think was fabulous, because that's what the company is. That's what the board of directors believes in. That's why they're on those on the board of directors. So good job constantly like tying it back to that. I think that we got a little bit at it in the Q&A, but I think more upfront presentation on the legal issues, as Tim asked, and on the financial part of it, I think would have been really, really beneficial. I think those were kind of misses in this longer presentation. But yeah, otherwise I think, and I also really, really liked your focus when we were asking questions on the data that is used to train a model and biases that can be part of those data sets. I think also that would have been something good to put into the presentation itself, because that is one of the biggest ethical issues with AI right now, right? Is the bias aspect in the data models. Oh, there's one more.
Melissa.
Thanks. So I agree, particularly with the bias aspect of the data models. I thought you all had a bunch of really great research. I think there was probably an opportunity to maybe have less and go a little bit deeper and flesh out a few things. But overall, I think you gave a really great overview and put us in a position to be able to ask questions. I think you focused a lot on disparities. And so with your recommendation to move to a different type of matching, how would you structure that internally from a governance perspective as well, which I think might have helped to bring in some financial considerations and some legal considerations as well. But great job. I think it was really interesting and enjoyed hearing about it.
Yeah, one just little minor thing, but it might not pick up on the video. I love that you all have the Minnesota M on your lapel pins. That's cool. It's like
Oh, that's fine. You are a good team.
form to your team. That shows community.
Okay, so I will ask, let's see, you all are, as I think Greg said, you're all very good presenters. This is fantastic. My wife and I have been together for 45 years, so I don't have the need for keeper. But I am gonna give Mutu like $1,000 every time I make a mistake and my wife wants to get into an argument. Your voice and presentation, you're gonna represent me and that will help our marriage. This is a good guy. Your timing was great. You came in at 29 minutes and 46 seconds. I think I like when people make the most of the time. There's a lot that you're asked to accomplish. So when people stop at 18 minutes, I sort of freak out. So, but obviously, I would hate it if you went over 30 minutes, so you're perfect. Yeah, Greg is right. It's very difficult to be perfect. One thing to try to work on is never say the word sorry. You know, just if you make a mistake or something, just move forward. I thought the slides were really good. I just happened to be one of those persons who, the fact that you made Roy you had that circle and you made them gray after you went through each one. I know it's silly and simple, but it really helps me as I'm trying to think of a million different things at once. And then the movement of that slide later on with the generations and everything. So that worked for me. We're the board. We know Jay. You don't ever have to say Jay's last name, the CEO. Just say Jay. We all know who you're talking about. When you say, so when you said Jay's last name 3 times, and actually, thankfully, there was a moment at the end, Mutu, where you just said, the CEO. And I'm like, yay, because we don't need to hear Jay's last name a 4th time. I liked that you didn't feel rushed. We've had a couple of teams today, and they're speaking so fast as if they were trying to make sure they would get it done within 30 minutes. And obviously, you guys have control over how much content is there. So I liked it better that you guys felt natural flow of communicating as opposed to feeling rushed. First time millennials appeared on the slide, you misspelled that, so don't do that. I'm a boomer, so I'm glad you misspelled millennial instead of boomer. I need to avoid that. So I deeply appreciate Allison bringing up the thought that you were on the outside of the realm of making it clear what the ethical issues were. But I will say from my perspective, being really ethical issues, the way you answered my question, Mutu, worked. You said in line with stated values, which is integrity and general ethical principles. So it was an excellent answer to an important question that we're asking each team. But it is true, and Maria backed it up, that you guys chose the approach that you did, which might be the winning approach, but it was unconventional that you didn't do, here's law, here's finance, and here's ethics. So, but the way you did it might really work. Not sure why you think that's the best slide to have up for 20 minutes of Q&A. You followed every other team I've been with today, so you're 4th out of 4 for using the phrase "you guys." It happened once. Don't do that. Us guys who are old think that doesn't fit with a professional presentation. It was a positive thing where Will asked Roy, hey, can I add to what you said? I mean, technically, we don't want to see that, but the way you did it was sort of respectful and was intended to make sure that there would never be inconsistencies with your message. Candidly, the team prior to you, I commented on the fact that the way one team member asked if they could participate in the answer was done poorly. Because, we think of you 4 as one team. And so there were 2 of the 4 of you who at some moment said, my research and I. So, Jason, you're great, but 99% of what you said was good. But there was this one moment when you said, I did this. or Roy said my research. You're. Are we
Yeah.
discussing someone at work?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Shoot. I thought it was lunchtime. Okay. Thanks, have a nice day. Thank you. Thank you.
So you all need to go back to the, you need to go back to the shop.